Welcome to the October edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. So we prepare a sheet called What's in Bloom for our garden visitors each month, and it highlights some plants that are in flower in that particular month. And so we're going to look at some of the things that are in flower in October. And right next to me here is Aloe wrightsii. So aloes are famous for the color they provide in the winter months when many of them do bloom, but there are ones that bloom at other times too. And this one regularly blooms at the end of summer or the beginning of fall. And here it is in flower now with its beautiful spires of flowers that are quite orange at the bud stage and turning more yellowish as they open. Aloe wrightsii from eastern South Africa. Puya is a genus in the bromeliad family, and they come from South America. Their range basically follows the Andes from Argentina and Chile in the south up to Colombia in the north. And it includes some of the largest plants in the whole bromeliad family, Puya raymondii being an immensely large one from the high Andes that towers over even a person on horseback. So this one's not so big, but it is a wonderful Puya nonetheless. So this one came from seed. We have a Puya called Puya laxa in the garden, and we collected the seed off it and gave it to a nursery called Annie's Annuals to grow into plants to sell. And they gave us back this, which is one of the seedlings. And as it grew up, we realized it's not Puya laxa. Puya laxa has thicker leaves and a fuzzy-looking leaf and a much more slender, short inflorescence. So clearly this one is a hybrid. And when it got big enough to flower, we realized what the parentage is. It's Puya laxa x coerulea. So two species we have in the garden that must have been a hummingbird got in there and crossed them with each other. And this is the result, Puya coerulea x laxa. So we're going to now look at the two parents and see what this plant derives from. This is Puya laxa from Bolivia. So this is the plant whose seed grew into the hybrid that we have. And Puya laxa is unusual in how thick the leaves are. It's the most succulent-leaved of any Puya we have here in the garden. It's very free-flowering, but the flower stalks are quite slender and go to the side and sort of hang down a little bit, and the flowers are very widely spaced on the flower stalk. So this is what the name Puya laxa refers to. The flowers are lax, in other words, not bunched together closely but spaced apart. The flowers are small and not easy to see from a distance. From up close, they're wonderful. They are a beautiful blue-green fading to almost a purple, and that's a kind of a color fade that you only find in Puya. Puya laxa doesn't have very many leaves in a rosette, but it makes a big clump with lots and lots of offsets, and it flowers for a very long period in the summer and fall. Puya laxa. When our Puya hybrid grew up, when we realized that it really was not Puya laxa, we had to figure out, obviously it had to be half Puya laxa because the seed came from that plant, but what was the other half? And we figured out it was this. This is Puya coerulea, a Chilean Puya, and usually Puya coerulea has a stalk, makes one inflorescence coming out of each rosette. But this form is very unusual because it makes a whole group of inflorescences. Here there's 1, 2, 3, 4 inflorescences coming out in a bunch right together. And we've never seen any other form of Puya coerulea that does this. In any case, it has pink flushed bracts that you see quite readily from a distance. And looking more closely, there are beautiful dark purple flowers emerging from between the bracts. So this is a silvery-leaved Puya, and that shows up in the offspring. And it has dark purple flowers, and the flowers of the offspring also have a lot of purple in them as well. And this one is an unusual form of Puya coerulea from Chile. Agave is a genus of several hundred plants found from the southwest United States down through Mexico and Central America and into South America, and also in islands in the Caribbean. So when we think of an agave, we usually think of the standard agave, Agave americana, the century plant, which is a big thing. But there are lots of smaller agaves too. And Mexico has the most diversity of agaves in a great range of sizes, one of which is this one, Agave isthmensis. So there it is coming into bloom. Here's another small one down here. The name isthmensis means coming from the isthmus, and the isthmus in question is the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, and that's the narrow waist of Mexico in between the central part of Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula farther to the east. So that's where this comes from, both in the state of Oaxaca and the state of Chiapas. And agave has two subgenera, subgenus Latea, which is plants that have a spike-like inflorescence where the stalk comes up and the flowers are all packed right along the stalk, and subgenus Agave. And this is subgenus Agave, and you can tell because it has floral branches and the flowers are clustered at the ends of the branches. In this case, it's a very slender flower stalk with a very small flower cluster at the end of each little branch, but definitely subgenus Agave. And now we'll look at another agave from subgenus Latea. This agave is Agave microceps from the Mexican state of Sinaloa in the west. It's a rather tropical agave. It doesn't grow at a high altitude and probably has relatively limited cold tolerance. Here we see its inflorescence, so it's just one spire of flowers with no floral branches. It's not really correct to say that these are a spicate inflorescence, because a true spike, the flowers are just one-offs coming off the stalk, whereas in many of the subgenus Latea agaves, the flowers are in pairs, and that pair is actually a very much reduced branch, so they are not a true spike, but spike-like. This one is rather compact agave. You can see here it is in flower, just about 2 feet or less across. It's related to Agave filifera and Agave shadigera, which are larger and have a more robust, taller stalk, but clearly related to them. This one has an unusual coloration. The buds are kind of a mauve gray color, and then when the flower opens, the face of the flower is yellow, sometimes a little bit of a purple tinge to it, but the coloration is rather subtle. It's not a common agave in cultivation, and we're pleased to have it in flower here at the garden. And we see down here at the bottom that 2 of its pups have flowered along with the mother. So there's little dinky inflorescence here and dinky inflorescence there. That's the pup getting the flowering hormones from mom and flowering prematurely. And that happens sometimes with agaves. Agave microceps. Sometimes on our What's in Bloom sheet, we feature a plant for its fruits rather than for its flowers, and that's the case with this one, Iris foetidissima. It's a European iris, and it has kind of tannish, purplish yellow flowers. They're a subtle color, but it has these beautiful, bright red-orange berries that come in the fall. And so as the capsules open and expose those orange seeds, it really makes quite a show in the fall, as it's doing now. It has a funny name, Iris foetidissima. Fetid means smelly or foul smelling, and the isthmus is an exaggerator ending, so it should be super foul smelling, but it isn't. It does have a funny smell if you really crush the leaf, but you have to work to get that. But anyway, it's an easy to grow plant, good cold tolerance, and has lovely flowers in the springtime, and then these very attractive orange berries in the fall, Iris foetidissima. And that brings us to the close of our October What's in Bloom. And we encourage you to come to the garden and see these plants for yourself. There's always lots of things in bloom that we don't include on the sheet. Sometimes their blooms are too ephemeral, or we just don't have enough room on the sheet. So there's really a lot more to see here at the garden. And if you can't visit the garden for yourself, well, visit our website, ruthbancroftgarden.org. All kinds of educational offerings and videos and photos to check out.